I got to tell you guys, I'm here in a bit of a mission. I flew over 2 days, 21 hours and 23 minutes to be here. I didn't come to play. I came for two reasons. One, because they told me that there is no party like a party in the Bahamas. And second, because they promised me a Bahamian wife. So I just came to collect. I came to collect, is what I'm saying. Now, I don't know what y'all heard about Zulus, but I was at the pool earlier and a young man was saying to me, he said, "Is that all the hair you got?" I said, "Yeah, my testosterone all goes to the right region," is what I'm saying. I'm not pointing anywhere, I'm pointing some. Anyway, shall we move on? I love entrepreneurship. I love business. Whereas for most people, business is about numbers, strategy, tactics. For me, it's a game.
Even if you are not ready for the day.
And for those of us who figured out how to play that game well, all we've really figured out is how to play the game better than the next person. What I hope to do over the next few minutes is to share with you some tools and strategies for how to play that game. Is that okay? So I'm going to do 5 things. For each of those 5 things, I've made sure that I brought evidence. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, if you want to succeed at this game called business, what are the things you need to know. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what are the different types of entrepreneurs that there are, so that you can decide for yourself the kind of entrepreneur that you want to be. The third thing, I'm a tactical what-to-do guy. And so I loved what my brother was sharing here just now before I came up, Seabass, giving you the actual tools. What I hope to do is to give you the actual tools of what to do. The fourth thing is I'm going to tell you what could go wrong. And the fifth is I'm going to tell you why. So let's get started. Let's have us a wee bit of fun. I come from a beautiful country called South Africa. Beautiful. If you've never been, go, and you'll absolutely love it. My relationship with business, though, wasn't, I suspect, what is the relationship that most people have with business. My own father, when I was younger, started a business and lost everything. In fact, I vividly remember the sheriff coming to collect my father's car because he had used our home to secure a loan from the bank to buy a car which he needed to run his business. And so when the business didn't work out, the sheriff came to collect the car. And my father figured out that what was coming next is the sheriff was going to come and collect the house or remove us from the house. So my parents decided that they were going to buy 2 German Shepherds. Really clever strategy. We had 2 German Shepherds named Boss and Giant. Now, I don't know if it's the same here, but where I'm from, when you have a dog, you give it a name that's a job description. You know, so we have names like Bite Him, Kill Him, Die Once. Was one of the most fascinating things when I started interacting with white people, when I realized white people give names to dogs that are like human names. We don't do that where I'm from. My grandfather started businesses, and my grandfather did marginally well. But when my grandfather died, his businesses died. For context, the country I'm from had a system of exclusion called apartheid. The word that you guys use here, the like way you say it, is apartheid. But basically what it was a system where the race you were determined the life you could have. So the miracle that I am in my family is that I'm the first person in my family to have a university degree. It isn't because I'm smarter than my ancestors, it's because the system was broken down by the founders of our current country, the likes of which you have Nelson Mandela. I mention all of this only to make the point that when I started studying us in business, I realized that we are actually incredible founders of movements. Everywhere in the world you go, where you find people of color, you'll find that we are fantastic at being founders of movements. Where we have struggled is to be founders of businesses that are multi-generational. And so what I started trying to do was to try to figure out, like, if you were to find a DNA of what it would mean for us to found businesses that are multi-generational, what would that look like? So think about Mahatma Gandhi, for instance, the founder of this principle of satyagraha, this idea of resistance that was nonviolent. Think about the incredible Rosa Parks, who I imagine actually, I think the way the literature's written is wrong. I think Rosa was sitting in the seat, they told her move. She said, nah, B. And then they said to her, Rosa, you gotta move. She said, nah, fuck that, I ain't going nowhere. That's how I think it went. That's how I think it went, And then they were like, ma'am, if you don't move, we won't move. And she said, nigga, try me. It's Friday today, and I ain't going nowhere. Then you think about the incredible Nelson Mandela. I will, at the end, tell you a story, but I happened upon the privilege of meeting Madiba, as we call him, twice. Unbelievable human being. He spent 27 years of his life in prison. That's the story most people know. Here's the story most people don't know. During apartheid, black people were only allowed a certain level of education. Nelson Mandela, because he was royalty from the Xhosa tribe, could go over that level of education and achieve a level of education through which he became a lawyer. He's one of the first black lawyers we had in South Africa. Not only that, he then moves from the area he comes from, called the Eastern Cape today, and he moves to Johannesburg, where I'm from, and he founds a law firm. So to be clear, whereas most people see the guy who spent a quarter of a century in prison, here's what I see. I see a man who had the opportunity to get an education, got that education, became a lawyer, started a law firm, and then instead of just focusing on himself and becoming wealthy as a lawyer, he goes, something is wrong with the way my people are treated, I'm going to do something about it. Here's why that's relevant to entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs write the business plan until life happens. And so what happened with Nelson Mandela is he gets into the political movement. He then begins and decides that he's going to do something about the fortunes of our people in South Africa. Then he gets arrested. Now, during the time he was arrested, one of his sons passed away. And in his tribe, the belief is that if you have a son that passes away and the father doesn't bury the child cannot make it to the hereafter. So Madiba's in prison, and he hears about the passing of his son. He goes to the prison warden, and he says to him, my son has passed away, I need to go bury him. And here's what the prison warden said to him. He said to him, if you will renounce everything you have said about apartheid, I will allow you to go home and bury your son. Basically, choose your beliefs or choose your family. And Madiba decided that he would far rather stay in jail than renounce what he believed to be true, that all people are equal. If you are an entrepreneur today, I came to tell you this. Sooner or later, your belief system is going to be tested. And what really happens is the plan makes sense until life happens. That's the beauty of an Excel spreadsheet, right? Is you plug in a set of assumptions and it tells you you're going to break even after 3 years. Every single business plan I've ever seen has this beautiful hockey stick. First we make no money, no money, no money. Then 18 months in we're break even, and then we're going to make money forever into the future. But life and reality simply doesn't work that way. So let's get started then. Let's talk a bit about this founder's mindset, which is what I wanted to come and share with you here today. Today, I run a private equity and a venture capital firm. This is the work that we do. We look for businesses that are great, that are founder-led, family-owned, that are legacy businesses, and we help those entrepreneurs scale those businesses. It's a great business. By God's grace, I've managed to do what I'd like to think is well. The opportunity for all of us in this room who are founders is that for the first time in a long time, there is more money today looking for deals than there is good deals. This hasn't always been the case. This is the easiest time it has ever been to be an entrepreneur. So the next time you're struggling with whatever issues you're struggling with, just remember this. This is the easiest time it has ever been. PitchBook says there is more capital today looking for M&As, mergers and acquisitions, than has been the case. So I'm a finance person. So what I like to do to win over my audiences is to give them irrefutable proof. And how do I do that? For any of you here who don't know, there are two ways you win over an audience with irrefutable proof. The first is you give them a statistic. Remember this now. Make sure that the statistic is to 2 decimal places. 70% sounds plausible. 69.78% sounds factual. The second way you win over an audience is to give them a graph. So what I've done for you, especially to the gentleman at the front who looks hard to impress, for you, sir, I brought some graphs. This is the number of mergers and acquisition transactions that have taken place since the year of our Lord, 1985. It's the year I was born. 1980s babies, where are you guys? Let me see you. Yeah, you know, 1980s babies, we run the world. This is a true story. 1980s babies run the world because we are old enough to be analog and young enough to be digital. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember a time when we had a phone and the phone was the house phone. I remember a time when, did you guys have the rotary phone? The one where your mother stuck your finger in the dial and had to rotate it like so? Y'all had that one? Yeah, we had that one. We had that one. 1990s babies, where are you guys? Feel free to leave now. 2000 babies, where are you? You can tell them, the TikTok people, they've already logged out. Look at them. Don't worry, we'll send you this presentation in 30-second bits. 1970s babies, where are you guys? Yeah, so this is called a computer, and how it works, I'll explain it later. These are literally the number of transactions that have taken place. Here's what you should note. This is the number of transactions, not the value of transactions. In other words, more businesses are being bought today than has been the case ever in human history. If you don't believe me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into 2 periods, and I'll compare the periods for you. So look at this. In that first quarter of a period, the largest number done up to the year 2000 was 40,000 deals. Until 2022, it was 50,000 that year alone. Somebody's building a business, somebody's scaling a business, somebody's selling a business, and somebody's buying a business. Here's what I'm trying to figure out. Why aren't we in that equation? Because that's the circulation of capital. People build something, they create an instrument of value, somebody else buys it, they create liquidity, they take that liquidity and they do it again. The reason is because most of us are taught how to start businesses. We're not taught how to build businesses that are scalable and sellable. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing you need to note, let's go back there to my one. The first thing you need to note is that entrepreneurship is not all the same. There are levels to this thing, as the young people say. My 15-year-old son likes to correct me. He says, Dad, bruh. That's how my 15-year-old talks. He's like, Dad, bruh. There's like levels, bruh. So my 15-year-old son plays basketball. He's really good. He plays junior NBA. He's at the age now, he's 15, he's my height, and I'm not a short guy. He's at the age now where I can't muscle him out of the game. So what I do is I try to get one on him, I score a quick 3-pointer, and then I pull a hamstring, imaginary. And he's figured it out. So now every time we start a game, he's like, Dad, bruh. He's like, there's levels to this DNA thing, bruh. Like, you were talented, I'm just like, universal soldier, bruh. I tell him all the time, I'm like, first, pull your pants up before you talk to me. And second, I ain't your bruh. I don't know, maybe it's just the young kids. My father would have smacked me if I ever called him brah. My dad would have been like, I ain't your mama's underwear, what is a bra? So there's levels to this entrepreneurship thing. If you remember nothing else from our presentation, please remember this. The first level of entrepreneurship is where you are the professional. There are a number of us in this room. You are the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. You are the barber owner, and you own the barber shop. You run the hair salon. You are the professional doing the business. That is to say, you have specialized knowledge about the thing you do. You deliver that specialized knowledge. You do the work, and the business makes money. What's your focus? Your focus is simply making sure you grow your customer base and more money comes through the door than leaves the door. Hands up if we're talking about you. That's okay, nothing wrong. It's about understanding where you are. The level above that is where you are becoming self-employed. Here, you have a trusted circle of a few people, 2, 3 people who are in your business that you've begun to give certain functions to. So you might run the accounting firm, but you've got somebody doing your administration. You might be the lawyer, but you've got somebody taking your notes, somebody going into the courtroom, taking the actual notes for you, somebody serving the papers. You are still the professional, but without you, there is no value. You are not yet an entrepreneur. You are self-employed. Now, most of us get to this level and we think we're entrepreneurs. Then we get frustrated because what happens when you're self-employed is your business draws all the energy from you because you are the energy in the business. The key here is to focus on codifying what you're building so that the business can run without you. Most entrepreneurs that I see at this stage have basic errors that they make, stuff like poor financial record keeping. You haven't even had somebody write down your standard operating procedures so that your business runs without you. You don't even know what KPIs you're tracking in your organization. Hands up if we're talking about you. That's okay. Ain't nothing wrong. First, we are honest with ourselves, then we learn. The level above that is where you become a business owner. Here, you've written the rules. So now you've got a 3, 4, 5 man and woman band who is a management layer that can run parts of the business without you. But to be clear, they can run parts of the operations without you. They can't do strategy without you. It's not hard to know if this is where you are, because what you will notice is your decisions are heavy to make. In fact, they are hard decisions to make. When I was at this level, one of the things I started noticing is I started suffering severe decision fatigue. Why? Because I had managers who couldn't make the operational decisions, so they only came to me when they needed decisions made that they couldn't make. But I only have a certain amount of cognitive load. I can only make a certain number of decisions every day. And so by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm tired. Why? Because I just had to make a critical decision on strategy. Then I had to make a critical decision on operations. Then my head of IT phoned me and I had to make a critical decision on IT. Now I've got to make a critical decision on HR. And I haven't even had breakfast yet. And so what happens to a lot of business owners, this is actually where the literature tells us most black businesses die. We die here. Why do we die here? Because we fall out of love and into life with the business. See, until you get to this stage, it's all love. It's all idea and business plans and websites and automations and type forms and customers this and social media campaigns. When you get to business owner level, excuse my language, shit gets real. Now it's taxes. It's performance management. It's I hired my sister when the business was small, but she's kind of useless now, I got to fire her. But listen, I'm speaking from experience. Have you ever had to fire a black sibling? First of all, it's hard to fire black people, period. Woe be unto you if you are related to them. Because what actually happens is before you fire them, you need to call a family meeting. Because the real boardroom is your mother's kitchen, not your boardroom. And if you don't believe me, fire your sister. Find out what happens on Sunday when you visit mama. Find out. And so a lot of us die here because we run into this thing, and it's the language, please remember it, called the implementation fatigue. You do, then you fail. Then you do, then you succeed at one thing. Then you do the next thing and you fail. You take 2 steps back and you do again. You fall out of love and into life. The level above that is where you become the entrepreneur. What do entrepreneurs do? First, entrepreneurs write a series of rules for their business that are scalable. And then they scale that stuff. And then the last thing is where you become the founder. Now remember, I spoke to you about how we are founders of political movements. How do we translate that into being founders of organizations? Notice how even in the technology circles, they'll tell you that Zuckerberg is the founder and CEO of Facebook. In other words, they recognize that there is a differentiation between being founder and driver. This is such an important point. One of the greatest graces God ever gave me was helping me recognize that I am a phenomenal founder. I'm kind of a mediocre manager. And so my role today is I spend most of my time doing the visioning for my people, creating the capacity for my people, giving them the resources, letting them know what we need to achieve and how I'm going to hold them accountable, and then I get out of their way. But I had to free myself to be the founder rather than try to be the manager. Hey, family. I just wanted to say thank you to the 1.7 million of you who are returning viewers on our channel. When the team shared that with me, I swear, I almost fell off my chair. I was like, 1.7 million people who return to watch the content on the channel. That's just unbelievable. I'm so humbled that you find the content we share valuable. And I promise we're going to do the best we can to keep bringing you content of value. I do have an ask though. 66.4% of you that watch the channel have yet to subscribe. You know what would really help me? I've got a running bet with the team, and we want to see if we can get that to below 60%. I need a favor. I need you to scroll down the video. You're going to see that bell icon, and I need you to press it, because then you're going to subscribe, and you're going to help me meet my metric. We have some exciting guests we've got planned for you, some incredible guests we've already shot. You would have met Kasim for our first Ideas That Matter Plus video format of the content podcast, and it's already gone viral. We literally hit 30,000 views within the first day of posting it. No advertising, no marketing. We just put up a link. And I said to the team, I think we're onto something here. One of the things I'm very passionate about is making sure we leave the world better than we found it, and that we leave our community better than we found them. So, hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to sharing more content with you, more insights, more motivation, and just generally helping the world become a better place using this medium. All right, family. We'll talk soon. Cheers. Now notice, until I broken this out, how many of you thought it was all like one thing? So you're like, well, I'm going to start a business, then have 1 people, then 2 people, then 10 people. Because that's how the literature is written, right? The literature goes, I start something, then I have 2 people, then 10 people, then 20 people, then 100 people. And then you start reading and you go, hold on, somebody started with a pitch deck and went from 1 person to 100 people. How do they do that? It's because they started at founder level already. They didn't feel the need to go through it. Some businesses require that you go through it. Most don't. Most don't. Let me recenter. How are we doing? Are we still getting value? Excellent. So how do you do this? The second thing I'm going to tell you now is I'm going to give you a system of how to create leverage so that you can do this. I told you I flew over a day to be here. I made sure that I bring the heat. I'm going to give you this growth hack framework, and on this growth hack framework, I want you to decide where you are. There are 5 layers on which you need to build a business. The first layer of business is what we call desire. Desire-led businesses are driven by the desire that a customer has to buy something. But it's pretty clear. It's a desire. The second level layer of business is a habit-driven business. This is a business that's run because the customer gets into the habit of buying what you're doing. Let's take it a step back. How many of us here have Netflix? Hands up, nice and high, don't be shy. That's okay. So what happens when you first got Netflix is you had the desire to get onto Netflix. You went onto Netflix. Netflix is smart enough to know, I can tell you because they're a client of mine, that for every 30 seconds of Netflix you watch, they collect 16,000 bits of metadata on you. 16,000 bits of metadata. They know which part of the program you watched, which part you paused, which part you rewinded. And today, because the devices all of you have on your hands, that luminescent rectangular device is incredibly intelligent. The camera on it is looking at you even when you think it's not. So if you're watching the program and you turn away, that tells Netflix that you didn't like that part and you turn back. If you're watching that program and you smile or you do this, that tells Netflix that you reacted to that part. They collect all of that data, they anonymize it, they put it into a massive data warehouse, and then they go back and say, if we're making a program for people in the Bahamas, we need to make sure that there's more kissing scenes than fighting scenes, because that's where we've got their attention. Free will, my friends, is only an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. What, did you think you just liked it by yourself? Is that what you thought? Is that... No, comrades, no, they are watching you. So what happens with desire-led businesses, they get into a buying cycle. Habit-driven businesses launch a product that you use once and then you get into the habit of using. Don't feel shy, but would you demonstrate for us by lifting your hand during the time I have been here, who's gone up and checked on their WhatsApp? Exactly. Why? Do you know why? Because now woven into your DNA is the need to check whether or not somebody has messaged you. Somebody probably has messaged you, maybe somebody has not. Your phone probably didn't buzz. You feel the need to check. It's gone into your habit. It's kind of like the same reason why you brush your teeth every morning, I hope. For any of the smokers in the house, you know that when you get into a gas station, you guys call it, I think you call it a gas station. Yeah, where I'm from, we call it a petrol station because that's what they sell. Petrol. I'm just saying. Change your language. But if you ever go into a gas station and you buy cigarettes, what's next to the cigarettes is gum. Why? Because the habit is if I smoke, I'm going to have some gum with it. Third level are trend-driven businesses. What's a trend-driven business? These are businesses that exist over a period of time using a certain trend. Now, there are some businesses that are able to go over that trend. Most businesses can't. Fourth level is a culture business. And then the last level is an image business. One of the things I have to tell you, by the way, is the farther up you go, the more margin there is. Image-led businesses make more margin, but they sell lower volumes. Desire-driven businesses sell higher volumes, but they make less margin. Let's test that to be true. Does an average Louis Vuitton bag sell more or make more money than, I don't know, each time you use your Waze app on your phone? Of course it does. And so one of the things you want to decide in those 5 layers of being an entrepreneur is what kind of business do you want to build? Notice, once you've decided on these things, you are then free to make the decisions that you need to make. I'm cognizant of time, so I'm going to jump through this part very, very quickly. The third thing you need to understand is for all of you here who are dealing in your businesses, you have to deliver an amazing customer experience. If there is one thing I think we can improve on here, it's how we treat our customers. It's easy to say, so how do you do it? I'm a how guy. So here's the how. Make a note of this. There are these 4 things you've got to do if you're delivering an amazing customer experience. The first, you've got to make sure that you're relevant. What does that mean? Second, you've got to make sure you're convenient. Give your customers choice, but not too much. Try the triage model, what we call the model of 3. Anything more than 3 choices, your customers don't buy because it's just fatigue. Any of you ever scroll your Netflix or your Amazon Prime or Hulu for like 20 minutes because you can't decide what to watch? You ever notice how the more channels they added on the TV, the fewer programs there were to watch for us? Why? It's too much choice. Way too much choice. Third, be responsive. How are you responsive? You have to listen. Now, entrepreneurs, hear my heart if my words fail me. You have to listen with the intent to understand, not with the intent to respond. Gents, I have terrible news for you now. Women are better at this than we are. I can prove it. Of all of the women in my life, I was counting the other day how many arguments I have won with the women in my life. My mom, my sister, my daughter, and all my aunts. I'm a fairly smart guy, I'd like to think. I've done fairly well. God's been good. I cum the programs that I'm in. I'm a cum laude kind of student. I know how to recall knowledge. I can retain stuff. I'm a smart guy. I'm a clever guy. I'm very clever. So then I started looking and thinking to myself, how many arguments have I had with the women in my life? And how many have I won? Be a great one for your app to track. And then I realized I can't recall winning an argument with any of the women in my life. So I went to my daughter, 13 years old. Daddy's little girl. Love her. Absolutely love her. I call her Memes. I went to her. I was like, Memes? She said, yeah, what's up, brah? I was like, remember like the one time like you and Dad were like arguing about something? She said, uh-huh. And I was like, who won that argument? She was like, duh, me, of course. And I was like, why? And she says, Daddy, because you're a man and you guys like do it all wrong. And I was like, we do what wrong? She said, you know that arguing thing? Like you guys just don't know how to do it. So I said, what do you mean? My daughter told me this. Guys, listen to this. Changed my life. See, we men argue when the argument starts. Like if you and I say we're going to get into an argument now the argument starts. Now I'll win it because I'm Zulu. But the point is, if you and I got into an argument now the argument starts. My daughter tells me that for women, the argument starts 2 weeks ago. We're just not aware of it. Is that true, ladies? She's like, the women start the argument 2 weeks ago. They archive all the information, keep all the evidence. She's like, we even decide how we're going to start the argument, Daddy. Like, we even decide. So by the time it starts, I'm just like, always ready for you. She's like, I know if I start an argument with you just after you came back from gym, I'm going to win because you're tired. Listening with the intent to understand, not the intent to respond. Third, be relevant. What does that mean? Make your product and customer experience personalized and meaningful. And lastly, be reliable. Whatever brand promise you make your customers, you keep it. If you say customer service, then it has to be customer service, not system service. Not the system says, this is what we commit to you as a customer. I have a friend of mine back home, Ian Furr. He runs a very large business called Solbay, and they're like a personal care business. And he has a methodology and a model of how they do customer care. He says, if a customer comes in with a complaint and returns any product they bought, regardless of how much of that product the customer has used, they will fully refund the customer. I said, Ian, that's garbage. What happens if they've used 90% of your product? He says, it doesn't matter. It's called customer service, not system service. If we believe that we are for the customer, then we deliver on what the customer wants. Deliver on what the customer wants. Get a quick sense of hands in the room. How many of us are still getting value? Let's talk a bit about trend businesses now. I'm cognizant of my time. Any of you here know this man? The greatest to ever do it, am I right? 2000, this is a man called Michael Jordan. He's the greatest basketball player ever to play the game. So Michael Jordan is like great at playing ball, right? And then Nike comes to him and they were like, yo, we should do something together. So they take the Jordan brand and the Nike brand and they come up with Jordans. That they caught a trend. But remember, trends die. So if I'm Nike, what would I do to make sure that even though trend dies, my revenue line doesn't? Any of you here who lose influencer marketing, you'll find this fascinating. So what did Nike do? Nike went, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go Jordan. As that trend dies, we'll go Tiger Woods. As that dies, we'll go Serena Williams. As that dies, we'll go Colby. As that dies, we'll go LeBron. As that dies, we'll go Cristiano. As that dies, we'll go Colin. As that dies, we'll go Naomi, etc., etc., etc. So what I did is, I'm a finance guy, I actually went and modeled it. I looked at their financial statements. Every single time they launched a new trend campaign, you see it in that orange line, you see the massive spike in revenues. So they kept catching trends to drive revenue lines. Someone in this room is running a business that actually sells a trend. The product you sell is a trend. It might be a hair product, a eye product, a makeup product. And what you haven't noticed is you're selling a trend product. Don't let the trend product be the business. The product is the product. The business is the business. And so what you got to figure out is, while I'm running a product today that is on trend, what's next on trend? Because if you're not catching the trend is going to leave you behind. Am I preaching somebody? That fourth level was culture. That fourth level was culture. Now, a cultural business is a business that shapes societal norms. And so for us, the question is, how many of us have businesses that shape societal norms? And that last level is image, rather. That last level is image. I'm old enough to remember this song, so tell me if you remember it. Yeah, I left him out. He ain't like us. He ain't like us. See what I did there? See what I did there? That was good, right? That was good, right? I came overloaded. We're out of time. Before I leave you, two quick things I want to share with you. Harrison, do me a favor. Ask the team with the deck if they can jump to that 20Q slide for me. I hope you got a sense of my heart. So there are three things I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is, I noticed a few of you taking images of what I came to share. Sebastian, my brother, what I'll do is I'll take a full copy of the deck because I prepared it for us to be here, and I will share it with yourselves. You just went past it. I'll share it with yourselves. And what I would advise, and I'm sure you'll do it because you're a tech guy, is let's build a front end where everybody can go in and load their email address. Once they do, you'll collect the data, and then we'll send them a copy of the presentation for anybody who would like. That's the first thing. The second, one of the ways I try to help entrepreneurs think about vision, think big, and think like founders is to try and help them and model what the future looks like. Now, it's very difficult to model what the future looks like, so what I did, and my team and I, is over years we built this thing called the 20Q. Please load it up on screen for me. You guys can take a shot of it. And what it is basically, quite simply, is you download the sheet, and in the sheet, there is a single page with a set of assumptions. You plug in the assumptions: sales, product, margin, market. And what it will do is it will build out the next 20 quarters for your business on your financial model. It'll give you sales, income statement, balance sheet, and it'll build your whole financial model for the next 5 years. So what you can do then is every single month and every single quarter for the next 5 years, you can have relationship conversations with yourself of accountability. I said we were going to make $1,000. Did we make $1,000? Lastly, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you guys with a quick personal story. So I'm 17 years old. I've just won the world championship in public speaking. I've won it twice, set the world record in the 5-minute format. That world record still stands. For those of you who are wondering, yes, I am that good. And I come home to South Africa, and my family has received a letter from the Nelson Mandela Foundation, and they've invited me to come and meet Nelson Mandela. So my mom sends me off to go and meet Nelson Mandela. In my country, you wear school uniform to go to school. It's kind of compulsory. And it was during school holidays, and my mom dressed me in school uniform during school holidays to meet Nelson Mandela. I lost my cool cred then. It's never really come back. And I made my way through to the Nelson Mandela Foundation office, and I arrived, and I get to meet the lady at reception. She takes me through to Nelson Mandela's study, and then she says to me, "Can I get you something to drink?" My mother said, "When you get there, if they ask you if you want something to drink, tell them you want tea, not coffee." I said, "Mom, why?" She said, "Because tea is British, it's high tea, coffee is common." So I said, "Great." So I get there and I said to the lady, "Can I please have some tea?" And she brought me some tea, she brought me some biscuits, and I'm sitting having some tea, and then I heard, "Where is he?" Oh my man. Then my knees started shaking, and I knew he was coming. And Mandela had a very heavy walk. I'm a big guy, I'm 6'1" and a bit. I'm 110 kilograms on a good day. I bench press 180 kilograms. I can squat about 350. I can hold my own in a scrum is the point I'm making. But even at my height, Nelson Mandela was 6'6" when I met him, and he was on the way down because he was old. So I heard him coming, and he had this heavy walk. I was like, "Go, go, go." And he walks into the study, knocks on the door, opens the doors. He takes 2 steps forward, and he looks at me, and he says, "My son, come here." My father had been murdered recent to this, and nobody had called me my son since then. So he says this, and I can feel it now. I'm like getting emotional. So I take a moment, and I leap forward, and I give him a big hug. He invites me to sit down, and we have an hour-long meeting. When my mom sent me to the meeting, she said, "Look smart, sound intelligent, don't embarrass me." Black mothers. And I decided the only way I could do this is if I said nothing but ask really good questions. So all I did was I'd written down all these questions. I spent 58 minutes asking him these questions. We get to the end of the meeting, and I've said nothing. So Mandela looks at me, and he says, "You know, they said you are a world champion, a public speaker." And I said to him, "Yeah, what, Dad?" He says, "But man, you have not spoken." And then he said, "Have you any final questions?" This was the question I asked him, and I will leave it with you. I said to him, "Dada," which is a Xhosa word for father, "what is your dream for humanity?" And here's what he said. He said, "Humanity needs a little bit of faith." I asked him, "What is faith?" He said, "Faith is the ability to believe in the impossible, to trust the invisible, and to walk into the unknown." And so I pray for you your businesses, and for your beautiful nation.